Hey team, we're all live. I know this is probably a really random time of day. I just missed Monday, so I made sure we could get it in. And this is the only time that worked for me. So you can definitely, I'll add up the replay and you can come back and watch this. Just want to make sure we get it in because I've got a bit of a topic I want to cover with you guys that is a really important one, something that is probably not one of the first you'd expect, but something that I think is really important in taking your training to a new level, bringing some control and some real confidence in your own training to know where you can go. So as you'll see as the title of this video, it's called Conscious Intent. What can we do to really get aware of what we're doing, really aware of how to train, how to eat, and how to just make ourselves feel awesome on a day-to-day basis, so that our training is going well, but it's also making sure other areas of our life are improving because of it. We want to make sure our energy is high. We want to make sure that we feel strong, we feel great in our clothes, and all the rest. So this is kind of the idea of the video. It won't take long, but if you guys have any questions, either now or when you're watching the replay, please add them up. That's what the group's for, and we will get back to them. So with nutrition, this is where I want to start with the conscious intent, because a lot of guys are so focused on calories, they're focused on their meal plan, whatever it might be, to get in that food. But the big thing is the difference. If I eat banana or if you eat banana, how that body breaks down and how it reacts to that food is very different. So it's getting away from this idea of calories. And this is why your training notes document is one of the most powerful documents you have in this whole training phase. One, for me to make the adjustments and know how you're feeling and how you're going between meals and motivation for training and all the rest. But for you actually consciously thinking about how you're feeling post-training, post-food is really powerful. Writing that down, really being aware of what's happening, because as you'll know, for majority of the population, this doesn't happen. They just eat whatever's close to them and then they carry on trudging through their day. So taking your time to really understand this and get aware about what's happening with your body there is going to be really powerful. Take control of that, take control of what your body is telling you, because I can't make adjustments unless you have that next level of awareness, which just comes with practice. It's not going to be perfect every time, but if you feel a bit off, you feel a bit bloated or tired after a meal, you know that might be something to do with what you've eaten, how you're slept, or the stress state that you're putting yourself in. So the first part when you're getting down to or sitting down to have a meal is exactly that. I want you to sit down, because a lot of guys are trying to look for a quick option, something they're in a rush for, they're having a smoothie or whatever else, because they feel like they don't have the time to sit down and eat. And I know that's bullshit. I'm going to call you out on that now, because you have time to eat, you have time to sit down and have a meal. So trying to make sure that you can actually take that time to sit down, enjoy your food, actually look at what's on your plate, and make sure you're enjoying what you're eating. Wholesome food, lots of color, lots of flavor that you're enjoying, rather than just a whole lot of artificial shit on top of it. That makes a massive difference. And I don't know whether I've told many people in this group, but I am actually getting ready for a show myself. So food is starting to go down a little bit, and I'm starting to get hungry. And it's been a really great thing, because what it's allowed me to do is be like, fuck, mustard tastes good again. You know, like there's really foods that I took for granted before because I was having so much quantity to try to put on the size or whatever that might be, or just, going through my normal day. Now that I'm in a deficit and I am trying to lean out, the level of awareness from what I'm eating has gone through the roof, because there's a little bit less of it, and I'm having to I'm enjoying food more. It doesn't have to be some fancy meal. It's just the sauces or the salad mixes I'm doing. It makes a big difference, because I'm chewing my food and I'm allowing that to digest. So that's another point, is making sure that if you're just inhaling food and you're not actually breaking that down, that puts a lot of distress on the gut. And this can be a big one for gut health issues, because you're simply just not swallowing your food. So actually slowing it down, chewing it properly, and getting rid of and making sure it's going down in digestible pieces, it allows your gut to not have to work nearly as hard. So especially as we start pushing up the calories, as we start working into more volume phases, this is really important. If it is something that's an issue with you guys, I think switching to a mince version as opposed to steak is a really nice recommendation that has been quite useful for me in the past, where the calories have gone high, just to make sure that we're giving your gut a bit of a break, because we are eating a bit more often, or we are eating in excess to put that size on. So that's also another nice point that I wrote down. And then the last one there is, and this may be also to do with excess and calories, but There's people that they'll have a drink with their meal, or they'll flush their meals down with some water. So they're trying to they're trying to just get that food down again, not get away from chewing or whatever else. Try and make sure that you're actually keeping your water, like a significant drink that you're having, at least 20 minutes or so, either pre or post your meal. So just keep it separate to the meals, because that again will make a big difference to your digestion and your ability to use that food properly, absorb it properly. So just a nice little tweak that I think I added in the last post also, but quite a big one. All right. So just that idea of awareness, chew your food, sit down, breathe, make sure you're in a relaxed state. If you're in this sympathetic state, you're in this fight or flight, and you're stressed out, you're still working, whatever you're still doing, you're not going to be using your food properly. So take that time, give yourself permission for that 10 minutes that you sit down to eat, that you're actually just taking that time for yourself. It's actually a form of self-care. It's trying to make sure that what you're eating and what you're putting in your body is really showing the standard that you have for yourself and what you're taking in, really giving yourself to do that. So I'm not going to push over that. That's a really big topic, and I think that's going to be really useful for you. Don't skip that. Hope that really helps. So with your in regards to training, so this is a conscious intent. This is still the focus on trying to make sure that you're improving the way you feel, or at least having awareness for that. Hey, Ali, how you doing? With your training, it's coming into the same idea. I want to make sure that when you're thinking about your sympathetic response, or that whole stress state, a lot of guys are either going straight to the gym first in the morning, or they're going after work, whatever that is. You're still thinking about work. You're still thinking about shit you've got to do in the day. The best thing you can do, and I do this with my in-person clients, so I know it when I do have them, and they've come in straight from work, and I can tell they're still thinking about work. I'm like, dude, shut up, sit down, and I want you to breathe. I just want you to focus on getting yourself back into a state where you feel like you're ready to train. If you're still thinking about 10 things and you're not actually focusing on what we're training, you're wasting your time, okay? Because my big thing, and it keeps pushing more and more, and it may not be obvious so much in the programs itself, but I want you to really make sure that your emphasis is on the tempos, making sure that you're controlling or spending time in a certain range, rather than trying to make sure it's 10 reps. I've got so many guys, and some of them will know in this group, that they're like, I'll get to 10 reps and then I'm done. That's just because what you've told me to do on the plan. But what I want you to use that is, say it's 3 sets of 10, is use that 10 as an indicator of what weight you're going to select. And then if you get to the end of the set and it feels like it was a little bit easy, then obviously go up or go down where you need to go. But if you have 12 reps in, I want to make sure you get 13, okay? You're not trying to just complete 10. Nobody's going to give you a gold star because you did 10 reps. Choose a weight, select a weight that actually is appropriate for you to really get the work done, control the tempo, and really get the most out of your workouts, as opposed to getting to 10, okay? A famous quote from Muhammad Ali was always, I don't start counting until it hurts. And it's one of the best techniques that I've brought into my training. I wouldn't have a clue how many reps I do. It's just once it starts hurting, it's like, right, now the game's on, let's get 5. All right, and that's been a really big one for me, is you've always got 5 more reps, which is also intertwined with a man called Tom Platz, which if you haven't seen him before, search him up. He has the best legs you'll ever see, absolute freak of nature. But this is just the same concept of mental toughness and not worrying about just completing 10 reps. It's trying to make sure the goal is, what can your body do? It's an internal focus on a muscle that we're trying to work. So why is your numbers so externally focused on what's happening on that bar? Okay, so switch that around, bring that conscious intent into how you're feeling about the movement, how far you can push it, and what you're really contracting, making sure those other muscles aren't coming in, okay? So coming into that, going into the, I guess one step into that with your conscious intent is also learning what range you have and how does it feel. When you go into the workout, you've done your breathing, you're in the state to really push yourself in the workout, or at least train with some focus. I want you to check your range. If you feel like you've been sitting down all day, you've been moving houses, whatever that might be, to that's been getting in the way of your workouts, you might feel you're a bit more locked up. So I'm going to test my range. What have I kind of got in external rotation? All right, so I've only got, if I'm doing a shoulder press and I've only got this much range, then I want to adjust the angle of the bench to make sure that's upright. I'm not going to sit in a vertical bench because that's how the bench is made and jam myself into a position that doesn't fit, okay? So those sort of little techniques where you're no longer just sitting in a machine and expecting that to put you in a position that works, because 9 times out of 10, that's really not the case. Find what range you can do, find what range feels good for you, and then find the exercises to fit that. And that's why sometimes machines or cables can be a better alternative, because you can literally adjust them to the way that you move. Machines can very well do a lot of lifting for you. They just jam you into a position that you find it very hard to make it fit you. So just be aware of that. What range have you got? What range are you going into with weight, because you're just forcing it into that position? Okay, so it's very common with something like a squat. If you can pull yourself down to that range, control it, hold it, and pull it up body weight, that's the range you go to. There's a lot of guys that will do that body weight or do their light set with great range, and then they'll add on 2 or 3 plates, and then that range slowly gets further down. And I've run into this in the past, because you have to squat to the ground or ass to grass, whatever that might be, which is completely false, because all you're doing is then allowing the weight to stretch you in a position that you're not controlled. And this is where you start popping, or not popping, but really damaging your joints, because you're putting that tension, that extra load at the bottom on your joints. You're using some sort of elastic momentum to get you back out of that hole, rather than just full muscle control. So make that focus with you, as you start pushing the weights, as you start building through the phases, is your goal should be sticking to the range that you can control, that you can feel, and that should stay the same regardless of the weight you're using, because the weight is just a tool. It's the weight that you've selected that you can do for that particular rep, and it's the movement that you're trying to nail. So build this mastery, build this focus around what your body can handle, and adjust the movements to fit you. Long term, your body will thank you for this, because you're no longer jamming yourself into joints. And this can be a big one with stretching, because it's so ingrained into our brains that we should stretch. Oh, so this feels tight, so I'm going to stretch it out. You're training a muscle, you're breaking tissue down. So your body's response is it's going to throw a whole lot of blood into that region to drive nutrients to it and really allow a bit of recovery to happen. So it's going to feel tight. So the first thing you start doing, if you're stretching that muscle out, is like, nah, it's okay, stretch, relax. Don't have to worry about the muscles contracting, and relax that muscle before you start going into the next set, which is very counterintuitive. And I see people doing it in between sets without really thinking about what they're doing. They're just like, I've done a set, so I'm going to stretch here because it feels nice. But the goal with muscle building, and the goal of training in an effective way, is making sure these muscles are switched on. They're working, and they're controlled through the range that we can. If you're stretching that, you're literally violating that mechanism of your protective mechanism of that joint, of that muscle, trying to make sure that your structural integrity of that joint should be at the forefront of your focus, not just trying to get more range, because what the hell does that do if it's not on the muscle? Okay. And cool. Yeah, the last one here, all I really had here to finish that off was this idea of having control, having that ability to know how far that set can go, so that you can, without any fancy shit, without your intensifiers, know how far you can push that set with your control, the range that you have, and full encompassing focus on that movement. What are we contracting? What are we building? And really making that set as best as we can. You'll notice that we're not chucking a huge amount of fancy drop sets or mechanical sets or all sorts of other stuff into the first couple phases, because this is our only focus. If you can't control that weight, you can't build some sort of focus with tempo or pauses, you have absolutely no business trying to add intensifiers that make you feel good because you can work with the pros. It's not something that is necessary, because a lot of guys will be very guilty of adding in drop sets because they really just didn't do enough work in the first set, so they need to add in more volume, and it becomes a process of just making workouts longer, because they start pacing themselves for what's to come. If you can make the most out of one set, really make sure that that one set is as best as it possibly could, you're going to find that once we add in these intensifiers, you really have some work to do. You have some ability to produce work and know that the muscle is doing the work. So we're setting you up for a lot more success down the line. So be patient with this one, but just make sure that this program is being tested. Well, I don't know how many people it's gone through. I'd say a good 50 to 100 people now, to really make the most of each one of those phases to build on the last. We want to make sure that through each phase there's a particular goal, there's a particular outcome that we're looking for, and that is only what we're focusing on. There's so much, and you will find yourself fighting this a little bit, but it's this all new red button stuff. Oh, this is a new exercise. This looks cool. This is a new way of doing this exercise. Regardless of what it makes sense, your body has a little endorphin rush there because it's new. So as you go through the plan, I just want to make sure that with that first base, this is going to be one of the most comprehensive plans you ever do, because the focus is so much on actually taking you as a person into consideration, making sure that we're getting a base, we're building the best possible backbone that we can to make sure that you have success throughout the whole plan. It's not just the phase of getting shredded or getting get that 30-day fat loss program when you know that's never going to last. So I just want to make sure that with that kind of covers our conscious intent, covers the topic of today. But if you can just make sure that through those phases, you keep your focus towards that intention, that goal of that phase, you can put the trust in us to make sure that the phases are built in a way that really build on the last one, making sure that if you can do your work and really just focus on perfecting today, not looking at the 12-month goal, you're looking at what can I do to make that better, put that brick down, place that as perfectly as you can, and once we're at the end of this 12, 16 weeks, we can look up and see that perfect wall, or at least the starting blocks of making the perfect wall, because we're allowing you to build the missing factors in the industry. It's no longer about a stupid exercise or a new way of doing things. I really want to have you guys confident and really knowledgeable in knowing how to move forward from this plan, knowing that you can build these training phases, knowing that you're never going to hit a plateau before. There are so many variables that we can adjust in these training phases to really build a body that you desire. It's a what do you need to adjust to make that look the way you do, and knowing to train those variables or knowing how to adjust those variables to keep going. So massive power on you guys for jumping on plan as usual and making sure that putting that control in yourself, putting that, direction behind your training, and knowing that after the 16 weeks is up, it's going to also be something you can continue. It's an education. It's a case of making sure that the direction of your training is something you can keep building. What do we got? Focusing on what directs front. Foundation skills. Yeah, totally. Like, it's just making sure that, you walk into a gym and everyone sits down on a machine and they're just pushing that weight around. And it's no longer, they're not thinking about what their body's doing. They're just, okay, this machine is set up like this. This is how I'm going to move. And they just sit there kind of using whatever it works. But if you can take that ability to find out what your body's doing, know what range you're working with, and then chuck some dumbbells in your hand or some sort of tool to work within that range, then that's what we're looking for, okay? So if there's any exercises in that program that don't fit you, that's something we want to go over, and that's another power on those notes. Cool. If there's nothing else, I'm going to leave that there. I hope you really got the concept I was trying to go over there. I probably rambled a little bit at the end, but the goal of conscious intent really is twofold. It comes into your nutrition, it goes into your training, and it really brings it all together, knowing that you're working with your body. This is a massive power you can have for you. You're no longer counting calories and forcing yourself to do cardio and all sorts of crap that allows you to feel like you're fighting against yourself, as opposed to knowing what your body is doing, knowing that you feel great, and that you're enjoying going to training. Okay, that's the main focus. At the end of the day, we don't want to make this a chore. We want to make sure that it's something you enjoy and it's something you can do long term. So I'm going to leave that there, guys. I will probably try to do this later in the week. I'll put up a poll and see what time of day is best for guys, because I know 1:30 is a little bit hard, and maybe a little better for the US guys. But we'll try to find out what time works better, and let me know for next time what questions you want to go over. There'll be a basic topic, but if you've got any further stuff, we will add that in. So have an awesome day, and we'll talk soon.